Hello. As you can see, Professor Sir Charles Bean in 2016 in the Independent Review of Economic Statistics said, the longer a decision maker has to wait for the statistics, the less useful they're likely to be. And he's thinking about decision makers like the Monetary Policy Committee, who are making decisions that affect the economy and jobs and therefore people's well-being. And there's been a challenge more widely to national statistics institutes to make use of big data and to make use of the tools of data science to provide basically more information more quickly. So this talk really is about the data science campus's response to this challenge and what we've done so far in our Faster Indicators of UK Economic Activity project. Set of objectives, always best to know what you want to do before you start doing it. So the first thing was to think about what data sets we could access that were real-time, so they were faster than the official statistics, but that had some kind of real relationship to the economy. So in the past, there's been things like people have looked at the lipstick indicator, which is now discredited and was started by, I think it was the CEO of Estee Lauder. Coincidence? I don't think so. And one which I always find very amusing about men's underwear, apparently it stays the same unless the economy goes down, and then if men's underwear goes down, we're in trouble. So we wanted to find, that is my best joke. Thanks for laughing. So we wanted to find some data that had some kind of real economic relationships. Our key goal was not to predict GDP, so that's not what we're out to do, but to find things that might tell us something. Maybe there was a large change in the economy. So it would be an indicator, an early warning system, a canary in a mine, if you like. You can see some big change that requires some kind of further investigation, might give some insight into what is going on. So then also about insights. So different aspects of the economy, perhaps we can look at regional aspects, something that tells you more than a headline figure. And then the last one was nowcasting. We haven't done this yet, but we've made the data available for other people to put this into their nowcasting models. So although we haven't done any prediction or nowcasting of GDP, the data is being made available for other people to do this, because we know there's lots of people out there with models. So what did we use? So the first thing we looked at was the Hmrc value-added tax returns. Obviously this is tax and turnover and expenditure for all VAT-registered companies in the UK. Massive data set, really interesting. It's already in GDP in the official estimates, but what could we do that was a bit faster? And what we did was create some diffusion index from it. So diffusion index is really simple. You just take your 2 periods, count up everything in that period, count the number that have gone up in turnover, expenditure, and divide one by the other. It's that simple. But we also did something a bit more innovative as well. So we were looking at reporting behaviour, because in a time of economic stress or financial stress, you might expect the way people to behave to change. So we looked at things like, did repayments change? Were there more re-inputs and things like that? We also looked at shipping. Shipping, you would hope, would be related to trade. Trading goods anyway, stuff coming in and out. And this is a heat map of Felixstowe over Christmas. You can see on the 25th of December, not much going on, but just before it's quite busy. And then the third data set we have is from Highways England, road traffic counts, and you can see all the census here, and we can do counts for all England, but also look around ports and then potentially link that up with the shipping. So we expect the traffic indicators to be related to things like trade, movement of goods around the country. Perhaps for this, also looking at commuting and jobs. And Hmrc is very definitely a key economic indicator. So we've ticked our first box, our first objective. So what did we find? So our second objective was, can we find things where we can see where something might have changed a lot in the economy? So this up here, scatter plot, sorry, but it does show something interesting. So we've got the diffusion index, the value of the diffusion index. Higher means more companies have their turnover going up, lower means fewer have them going up. And then across the x-axis, we've got GDP. So what you see here is we've hit our second objective. Mostly, in the red bit, where the recession happened, you see the diffusion index is really low. So if you see a low diffusion index, probably you need to start thinking about what you want to do. But, really important point, not so good correlation when things are more stable. So you see a lot of scatter up here. So although it's useful for detecting the big changes, care needs to be taken in interpreting some of these because it doesn't really get, is it 0.2 or 0.3% growth. But we would have seen, at the time, 5 months ahead of the official statistics, the first quarter of the downturn in the economy in 2008. Now, again, caveats, because it's all about the caveats, because it's real data. Obviously, GDP has changed. We've made improvements to GDP, and even the publication schedule has changed. And what happens in one recession may not be the same in the next recession. But still, we would have seen the last recession 5 months early. So we have ticked the box for that one. For shipping, we created 2 indicators. One was time in port, and one was the shipping traffic in the port. This is for port traffic. And what this shows is it has a really quite good correlation with imports of goods. So basically, if your port traffic is low, you've got lower imports, and if it's high, you've got higher imports. Again, lots of scatter, don't place too much weight on a single point, but it's a useful thing. We've also split this up by ports around the UK, so you can look at individual ports, relate them back to the kind of goods that are coming in and out of those ports, and see if there is something going on, how that relates to the overall economy. And then the third one, road traffic for all England. We're trying to get hold of more data for Wales and Scotland and Northern Ireland as well. So we've got, which way around? Imports and exports, official statistics. And then here we've got large vehicles, so this is things like HGVs. And what you see is that you do see the recession here, some stuff going on here. Some of this is about the data quality. There's always a trade-off between time and quality. But you see here there was a bit of a dip in freight on roads around here. So that's good, and we can make these available between a month for VAT, between a month and a few days before the official statistics, so it's earlier. For this, we're doing monthly at the moment, so it's available a month before the official GDP statistics, but we could make that faster possibly, and this is 2 months ahead of, at the same time as this, as GDP. But it gives you a bit more granular detail. And the idea is, if you see something going on there, you would then go and investigate further and understand not just what the impact might be on GDP, but what's actually going on in the economy. Excellent. Perfect timing. Oh no, almost perfect timing. So we've already published data, methodology, and some economic commentary on March the 18th. If you go to the Data Science Campus website, you can find that. Our first timely, eagerly anticipated timely updates on April the 15th. Which will show data up to the end of February. And it's work in progress. This is just in development. They're going to be research outputs. There's a lot more that we can do, so we really welcome people coming back with suggestions about how to improve it. Oh, 5 seconds. I've got to say the first.
We're now going to take a few questions. So whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Oliver Marsh, Cabinet Office. Those were really creative and interesting lateral measures. How do you come to those? What process do you get so creative?
Thank you. Next.
And kind of following on nicely with that, are there any other indicators that you're looking to develop in the pipeline?
And our third question.
Hello. You said something very intriguing, which was there's a trade-off between the timeliness of data and its quality. I wonder if you could dig into that a bit.
Brilliant.
Excellent. So I'm really glad you asked me about the creativity. Data Science Campus was opened in the Office for National Statistics 2 years ago, almost exactly. And if you want to know all the other interesting stuff we've been up to, we've just published our annual report, which covers 2 years. So basically, this was created to do innovation and to look at big data and data science techniques. We recruited in a pile of very talented and skilled data scientists, and we're put slightly separate from the rest of ONS. People don't really appreciate it when you kind of experiment on GDP. They kind of like to know what's happening. So we have a bit more freedom to innovate and to try new stuff, and that's how this has come out, and all the other good stuff that we've done as well. Your question was about other indicators. So as well as making some improvements to this, we're really open to other suggestions. So these are just suggestions and not actually things we're working on yet. One might be to look at whether we could use online adverts to look at jobs and skills. I think there's been some suggestion that maybe we could look at energy data as well. There's all kinds of things we can do. Obviously, usually the biggest barrier is getting hold of the data. And then timeliness and quality. So obviously, if you're publishing official statistics, the official record, for economic statistics, it has to be consistent conceptually with the European System of Accounts 2010, which means you have to make sure that the data you're collecting matches those concepts. You need to, they're all kind of interlinked, so there's a whole pile of stuff around balancing statistics, QA, making the production robust, and making them to be the thing that people expect. Whereas these are, let's take some data and see what it shows us. So if you're going to turn this into an official statistic, you'd have to do a whole pile of other steps, looking at concepts and production and all those kinds of things. And you know, if you think about surveys, you could never do it this quickly, because you've got to go out, collect the data, check the data, validate the data, clean it.
Excellent. Do we have any more questions for Louisa? We have time. We have lots of time. The gentleman at the back, any more? Again, we'll try to take them in a group. And the gentleman in the corner as well.
I'm Chris Fairless at the Greater London Authority. A question about the robustness of what you were presenting there. What if, hypothetically, there was some sort of step change in, say, tariffs at the ports or freight into the...
So this is...
Should we take the next question as well quickly?
Hi, Matt Collog from the Cabinet Office. You said about the port stuff, and you talked about how you could disaggregate it to individual ports and link that through to sort of obviously what their main trade things are. But I wondered if also, have you noticed whether certain ports are more robust, is there a better correlation for certain ports with certain bits of GDP or GDP overall?
So the interesting thing when you're using third-party data is you have no control over what's collected. So that's something else about quality and timeliness as well. You would hope that if something radical changes, as you could imagine being possible, that it might be reflected. So if it changed and there was no impact on shipping, that would be a really interesting thing to know. And if there was an impact, you would know it a bit sooner than collecting the official statistics on trading goods. But it remains to be seen. This is new. We've had, well, actually for the shipping data, the data doesn't go back as far as the last recession, but we've only got one recession to look at. Not that I'm assuming that that would be what would happen. And you don't know what the impact will be of future economic climate. But this would hopefully give you some kind of early warning of what was actually going on in real terms, in a bit faster than the official statistics. I've completely forgotten what the other question was.
Different ports.
Different ports. So we've published data for the biggest 10 ports in the UK, and then we've added 3 more that the Devolved Administration has asked for as well. We haven't done a comparison for each of the ports. I mean, broadly, you can see that some ports have more traffic than others, so you'd expect them to contribute more. But I think where it becomes an interesting new insight is linking it back to what's coming in and out of those ports, and then you can see what the impact will be on those parts of the economy. We've got this out very quickly. We started work on this less than 4 months ago. So faster indicators, faster. And we wanted to make the data available as quickly as possible so that if people have questions like that, they can experiment for themselves as well.
Excellent. We have 2 more minutes. Does anybody else have any questions? Otherwise, I will close with the final question. Yes, the lady there. Anyone else? Okay.
Hi, I'm Emily from the Centre for Ageing Better. Is anyone using it yet in government?
We've had really good feedback from the key stakeholders who you'd expect to be using this. I can't tell you for certain who's actually using it for what, but there's been a lot of interest in having these faster indicators from people who are interested in the economy.
Any other final questions? Gentleman there.
One of the things we're looking at here is very much the day job at ONS, and the ways you could do it better. One of the things that government struggles with is joined up analysis. Are you looking at any things to do with joined up? You know, what's the best way of avoiding, I don't know, teenage pregnancies? Is it healthcare? Is it education? Is it, well, I won't keep going. I'm
just trying to think what a project is that we're doing. We have, so at the campus, we don't just look at supporting ONS statistics. Actually, it's a really good opportunity to tell you this. So we're here to support across government. We do capability building, but we also take projects from across government and the public sector. So if anybody has some interesting data science that they'd like us to have a look at, we'd be really pleased for them to get in touch. And that kind of thing would be really interesting.
Excellent. Final 44 seconds. Very final question from me. What have been the biggest barriers that you found to doing what you've been doing?
I don't think that anyone in this room will be surprised that even for ONS, data access is always difficult. And I think, I mean, there's some real things about that. We care a lot, both legally and professionally, about ethics and privacy and security, and so sometimes you just can't speed those things up. So that's been interesting. I think having the campus and having that pool of like a critical mass of skills has really meant that we've been able to accelerate some of the more innovative work. So that's fixed one of the problems that we had before.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Louisa.